Welcome back, everybody, to the Blue and Gold podcast. This is your host, Geoffrey Whiteside, with my co host, JD Kameen. And we have the absolute privilege of sitting down with Eric Johnson, who's a 2015 graduate, and Andre Truss, again, he's a repeat offender on the show. No, but Eric is a financial coach. He is also a business owner. They own expansion restaurants together. So, gentlemen, welcome to the show. And Eric, introduce yourself to the goats.
Appreciate you, brother. Hey, what's going on? My name's Eric Johnson. I'm a 2015 graduate of the Naval Academy.
Hey,
Hey, 24th company, rock
let's
stars.
go, baby. Color company. Come on.
But hey, first off, I just want to thank you gentlemen for allowing us to be on the show today. This is really exciting. Geoffrey, I've seen you start this, and it's been going for a minute now. And it's growing, popular, and there's a lot of people who are getting a lot of impact from this show. So kudos to y'all for starting this, and it's cool to see people that we ran through the hallways with doing things that we can't speak of, and to now we do things that are so great. So I'm excited to be here, excited to talk, and I'm just glad to Also, hey, let's not forget Geoffrey has celebrated a birthday this week.
That's right.
I'm getting old. Don't say my age on the show.
He's 33, everybody.
Definitely an older goat now.
But also played football at the academy, things of that nature. So I'm excited to be here. Started with financial coaching, as Geoffrey said, in restaurants with Truss as well. We love business, we love teaching, and we're all about making people better, man. Let's get to it.
I'm excited about this one. So we're going to hop right into it. Okay, so go back a while ago, right? You're a business owner, you're a financial coach. What you know now, bring that to the second class loan we got, the career starter loan. What advice would you give someone in that situation now that you have the knowledge and, the business experience, essentially?
That's a good question. Me and Truss actually talk about that a lot. And, one of the major things I think that we've come to learn was that we had to change how we viewed investing. Because when you hear about it, it's always, invest in real estate, stocks, crypto, all of these things. But one of the things that we've learned through time is that, investing in education really is the key to progressing. Because even if you take that loan and do something positive or make some money, right, but you don't have the knowledge to sustain it. And I think that's one of the most critical things that people miss out on. They just want to jump into it, but they don't really know what they're jumping into. So investing in things from leadership, personal development. If you want to learn properties, then taking courses. There's tons of courses out here. There's things that educating yourself, and I think you got to change how you view education as well, because we're taught to see it as just something that the schools do, right? You're in school, we're sitting through double E, and it's so people, education is that. There's a whole different world out here. And I think learning to figure out what you want out of life, and then investing the time to educate yourself on the things that help you get there will pay dividends for you far more than just trying to jump straight into investing yourself.
Yeah.
I got a couple questions. Eric, when you graduated, so I've followed, for those of you who don't know, I follow Eric on social media, and for many years, I followed his videos about protecting your credit, how to build your credit, repair your credit. When you're graduating as a midshipman and you get your first credit card, what are some things that you can do to protect yourself? And your credit's still pretty young, right? If you hadn't had a credit card growing up and you get one as a junior, how does that work? Can you talk through some of that stuff, like establishing credit, how to protect yourself? Because I have credit blemishes all over me from when I was active duty and I was out in the field and I couldn't, pay. Can you talk a little bit about that for midshipmen that are listening?
Yeah, so credit is one of those interesting things. And we used to, growing up, we were taught to fear credit. A lot of people feared it and just didn't use it because there was a lack of understanding, which kind of goes back to what I was talking about before. So one of the biggest things is understanding how a credit report is set up and how things are reported for you. So if you get a credit card, one of the first things you want to do is don't spend frivolously, right? It's not free money. So a lot of people who don't understand that, they see the credit card balance and oh, I got this money to use. They forget that they used it. And then what happens is they graduate a couple of years later and they have collections accounts and all these things working against them. And those things take time to come back. So first off, I tell people, if you get in a card and you're that young, if you have bills, cell phone bill, put something fixed on it that is going to use it so you get the utilization and then pay it off. But now you don't have to worry about it, because what happens is if you just start getting in the habit of using it frivolously, now you run the risk of putting yourself in a bad situation. I think another big thing is to understand that 35% of your credit score is payment history. So do not miss payments, right? If you miss payments, that's 35% of your score. 30% is credit utilization. So you got to be wary of how much of your available credit you're actually using as well. So you want to know, hey, if I have a $2,000 credit limit, and you don't want to max it out because your score is going to be lower if you have more available credit. So understanding how to use these things, and also you don't have to get a bunch of cards, right? One of the things that I've learned that you can do is, say you have parents with great credit and they have great credit cards where you can get history by becoming an authorized user on their account. You don't even have to get a card, right? They can share that history with you, and you get the benefits of their credit history without it. Because what's happening if you're just starting, it takes time to build credit history. We can't cheat time and we can't create it, but what we can do is use tactics like that in order to get ahead of the game. So doing things like that and being responsible and only using it for fixed expenses, those are some ways to build up without putting yourself in jeopardy of having to pay it back later on.
That's a good idea. Why is missing a payment such a big deal? Is it because a credit card company now views you as like a huge risk, or did they lose money because you didn't pay them back for something? Like, why is it such a big impact on your credit if you miss a payment?
I mean, I think it's just because at the end of the day, it shows credit worthiness, right? And I always tell people to take the credit bureaus out and just flip the script. If you gave me a loan for $5,000 or credit for $5,000, and I was supposed to pay you back $250 a month, and I missed the payment, you're going to be more worried about dealing with me after that, right?
Good point.
Like that, it's like, okay, well, of course, that makes sense why it would blemish me, because if you owe me money and you miss a payment, you best believe it's going to be something the only way I can hurt you is through, hey, this person missed the payment, y'all better be worried of this, right? So there you got to be more. Like, for instance, if you know your credit card is due on the same time every year or every month mostly, right? So if I know my credit card bill is due on the 27th of each month, why not just set a reminder on your calendar a few days before that to make sure that you make the payment, right? Now, because there's so many things going on, we got to use the technology that's available to us where we don't have to think about it. Because a lot of times I don't think people intend to miss payments. There's just a lot of life going on. Mm-hmm. So in order to do that, you have to utilize things to help you not have to think about it. So if a reminder pops up on your phone at the same time every month, oh, okay, let me make sure this is done, right? And you might have auto pay and all those things, but even with auto pay, sometimes those things mess up. I've personally had that where I had bills on auto pay and it was like, hey, this bill wasn't paid, and somehow
it trips off.
Right. So now with that reminder, you don't have to worry about it, because if you just assume it's getting done, that's another way to end up in a bad situation. One of the things we talk about with our staff all the time is assumptions. Right. And so if you assume that things are getting done, you always want to have that checks and balances, even when it's with your personal stuff. So I think overall, that's why it's seen as bad for not making payments on your credit.
Man, I love how you said that too. And this is the last thing I'll say, and then, back to Geoffrey to introduce Truss. But you said it perfectly. And Geoffrey and I said this at the Blue and Gold Summit 2 weeks ago. When you're a midshipman, your life is not easy. It's hard, but it's the simplest it's going to be for the rest of your life. It's the simplest time of your life. It's not the easiest, for sure. It's very difficult, but it's very simple. You don't have kids, or you're not supposed to have kids. You don't have houses yet. You only probably have one car, may have one credit card. So it's a fairly simple life. It's very hard, but it's only going to get more complex. So you said that perfectly. And then Geoffrey, back to you. And I'm excited to get Truss in here, because I'm so excited to talk about your guys' business.
Yeah, so I got a quick question for both of y'all, because I get this question asked to me. So if you're like sitting in like either Bancroft or a JO and you have limited capital and experience, how do you get involved in either starting a side hustle or entrepreneurship? Like, how do you get started? You feel like you're sitting on the sidelines. Mm-hmm. So what can they do?
So I think a piece that gets missed often is we get focused on capital. We need investment money. We need that to start. But the truth is, there's tons of different forms of capital, mm-hmm. right? There isn't just the physical capital or, cash capital. There's, mental leverage. That's one of my favorite things, right? Mm-hmm. So if you can't physically be there, or if you can't participate with money, or if you can always leverage your mental. Mm-hmm. Right. So I might be able to participate on a deal by just being the guy who writes the deals. Mm-hmm. Right. I might not be able to get 100%. I might not be able to get 90%, but I could start off getting 5% by just being the guy who writes the deals.
That's a cool way to look at it.
right? And so
Yeah.
it's like when you're getting in the game, what you're trying to do is build your skill stack up, right? Because once you get skilled, that's the currency. Like, for example, like we're running the restaurant now. That's a skill. It's an operational skill. So any type of business that I want to run in the future, as long as the operation is as chaotic as the restaurant or less,
there's nothing more chaotic.
there's no, you see what I'm saying? So there's no business that we can't run because we got that skill stack, right? Yeah. So for us is kind of focusing on that start and focusing on the mental leverage piece first. Because if you could just get in the game, whether it's, I tell people all the time, I was big on delivering coffee. That's my biggest thing, right? The value that I used to add to the rooms that I was in before I got in them was I was always willing to deliver coffee. I don't care what it is. I'll go to the store. I'll drive there. I'll come back. I'll have the coffees for everybody. But my ask is that you let me sit in the meeting.
Yeah.
Right.
Just being in proximity.
I just want to be around what's going on. I just want to hear what's going on. And if you're a young JL, I remember when I first started out and transitioning and really wanted to do something different and getting into real estate, the first major step for me was realizing that you have a life outside of what you do, right? Like your life is your life to live. Whether you're working in the Marine Corps, working in the military, whether you're working on Wall Street, whether you're working, it doesn't really matter. Your life is still your life. And what you want out of life determines where you go, right? So for me, it was like, okay, I know that the military is fine and I like it for right now, but personally, I don't see myself doing this forever. Right. So how do I actually want to live my life? Well, I want to be able to work with the people that I care about, transition from space to space, meet up with the people that I care about when I want to do so, and be able to fund the things that I actually want to do. Right. That's the things that I want to do out of life. Now it becomes, how are we going to make that happen? What happens is we're starting off always naturally thinking about the capital, right? Because that's what's fed to us. It's naturally pushed. Yeah. But when you start to realize, like, all right, you know what? I might not really need that much money. I might need 5,000 to be fine. Yeah. Right. Now it becomes, okay, what can I do to get that? And it opens up that door so you could start where you're at. But I would definitely say mental leverage. You want to start there and just getting in the game mentally. And once you're in the game mentally, funds naturally come.
Can I ask something?
Man.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, another thing with that, because he getting teed up. So another thing for people to focus on is, like Truss talked about, everybody wants to focus on capital, but I think another thing, and we talk about this a lot, and with the people we mentor, is value. Really taking the time to understand value, right? Because the value changes, especially like when you know what you're looking for. Certain things are going to become less valuable to you, and the same thing with the deal, right? If you don't have the funds, well, what things about you make you valuable enough to where you can use that to leverage yourself into the deal where you can get in, kind of like Truss said, right? So in identifying things and understanding, hey, this has value, this doesn't have value, and also for yourself, right? It takes a lot of internal inspection to really sit down and be like, all right, hey, this is the value I have, this is what the value I want to provide. What do I need to, this is where I'm at now, this is where I need to go to close that gap to be able to provide that value, right? And this is what's going to make me more valuable to the people around me and to the things going on, to really be able to make an impact. Because there's a lot, even if you have a lot of money, if you're not valuable, people still don't want to work with you,
That's
right?
a fact.
So the focus can't just be on money. It has to be on who are you as a person? Are you a good person? Do people want to do deals with you? Do you do good business? Are you a person of value? Do you keep people of value around you? Right? These things feed into it so much to create the situations that we tell ourselves we want. But if we don't focus on those, then that'll be the reason we never get to the place we want.
Man,
you
guys are
what part?
intense.
Yeah, you guys are
These
spitting
Marines,
it.
JD.
Yeah,
You're
man,
a
I'll
Marine
tell
too.
you.
I can't.
Yeah, it's a little bit different though. It's a little different. PAOs are a little bit of a different breed. It's not even a joke. All right, so what part of your military service prepared you? So one thing I really respect about both of you is you went into the restaurant industry in one of the most chaotic and particularly difficult times just in the world, with COVID, with labor shortages, with operational supply chain issues, and you guys are navigating it. So what part of your military service prepared you for that? And then let's talk about those challenges and how you guys are fighting through it.
You want to go for so I would say the leadership training in the Marine Corps and the Naval Academy is like bar none.
Hmm.
Right? What happens is until you get out, you don't really have an opportunity to reflect on what you've done.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So one of the things E and I were able to get, not only get out around the same time, but also physically live together. We both decided, we're both out the military. We don't necessarily know what we want to do next. We're building the things that we're individually building, but in this time, we want to get together and figure that out.
Shout out to house hacking.
Right.
Yeah.
100%. So that time we reflected a lot. And going back to what we learned in the Marine Corps, like it's the greatest training program out.
Absolutely.
Right. It shows you how to stand in front of a person, have command presence, give clear and concise direction, actually lead your team, lead small unit leadership. So that was the thing that was struggling, because we got out and, especially for me, I struggled with wanting my team in place. Right. So the operation that I was building needed to be team oriented, because I love driving a team. That's my thing. I get great utility in pushing other people. Right. Like that's the thing that I'm good at. So I wanted to have a team in place to be able to, one, push and help them grow, but I can also see how good my leadership is getting by how good they're performing. Right. So there was something that needed to kind of bring me back to the feel of being in the Marine Corps, where, it's like your team, right? It's your shop. You care about everybody. You come in from the weekend, you come in from leave, but you also know about your sailor or your Marine Corps struggles that they're going through. And you, as the leader, want to make sure that you take care of them. It's no different. So I would say the Marine Corps training mixed with the Naval Academy's curriculum, when applied to something that you're doing for yourself, is bar none. It's night and day difference.
Now, did you guys struggle from going from leadership in the Marine Corps? I know you guys are intense. I know that for a fact. So did you
They're
struggle?
intense. I'm sweating over here, and I'm like 1,500 miles away.
Did you struggle making that transition? Because it's different from leading, sailors and Marines to people on the outside. So did you have to like dial back the intensity or shift it in any way?
So I'll say this. I'll say overall, I did have to shift how I learned to deal with people from the military, especially from the Marine Corps, right? Because it's a very different environment. Mm-hmm. However, I'd say that as far as a leadership standpoint goes, no, because in the military, I never based my leadership off of what someone told me. I was the leader that I wanted to be, right? And because of that, I was able to take the same principles and use it on the outside. So I think people feel like filling a position makes them a leader. Right. And what they fail to realize is the same thing I learned in the military, is that I got more people to do things because they respected me than because of the position I held. And it's the same thing on the outside. Our staff do things because they respect us, not because we're the boss or we're the owners. That's just the plus. Yeah. Right. So I think when you establish your position in a business and it's based off of your role or your rank, you're destined for failure. Same thing as in the military. Right. And we see that all the time. I know y'all seen it in the Navy. We see it in the Marine Corps. Right. So I think that there are differences. There's challenges, right? Like you can't just put somebody at parade rest and spaz at them, right, with a knife hand. But like
HR will be at your door, right, really.
But but it also when you're leading by example in front of the front, and the people that you're leading see that you're not telling them to do something that you don't want, that you're not doing, you don't really have to do too much convincing, because they want to follow someone who knows what they're doing and that is presenting themselves in a manner that they would want to emulate. Yeah. So I think that there can be changes as far as the intensity, but overall, like even in the military, if you are your own person and you lead the way it best suits you, and not like, hey, a leader should do this and yell and blah, 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 and now you're just copying people because you're not confident in who you are. Yeah. So I think the biggest piece is, to be a good leader, you got to become confident in who you are as a leader first, and then that will impact the people that you stand in front of every day.
And a big piece to jump off what you were saying is that when we got out, especially, so at first it was tough, because when you get out the military, you're already structured in a certain type of way, so you start to do things in a certain type of way. And I remember having a conversation with Ian. He's like, hey, we transitioned out the military, yet we're acting like we're still in. Yeah. And I was like, all right. So for me, whenever I get big information, I reflect a lot. So he said that to me. It hit me. Spent a couple days away. right? Had to really reflect on what that meant. And as I came back, I realized that people want to be pushed. They want to get better naturally, right? The issue is that when they don't feel like they're being pushed for a real reason.
Yeah.
Right.
The big why.
You feel me? The big why. So for us, it wasn't necessarily about changing our tonality or changing anything like that, because we were already leading in the same manners. But it was more so about getting the team to buy into getting better for themselves.
Yeah.
Right. But once we got the team to buy into getting better for themselves, it's now, okay, I'm coming to work and I'm being disciplined in these things because I know there's another level for me.
Yeah.
Right. Like they all seen us. So kind of what you were saying about respect. I've mopped the floors in there. I've cleaned up everything that you can imagine inside the restaurant. I've had my hands in every aspect of it. I've mopped, clean. I've jumped on the line. I've done all of these things to learn what it is the business is, and to also never require something of my team that I haven't personally done.
Yeah.
Right. And that was big because that's what we learned from the Marine Corps, leading from the front, like you was saying, and really taking charge of the situation. And it's actually easier, I would say, in the civilian world.
Absolutely. Because
no one's pouring into them the way that you're getting poured into in the military. It's like, that's a never ending thing. That leadership that you get is, I have to keep on stressing it. The Marine Corps' leadership, just the military's leadership, just in general, what you learn from it, when you apply it to your own life, man, you could literally do anything.
Yeah.
And I want to give a little backstory real quick. So that situation that Truss was talking about when we was like, yeah, we're recreating the military. So what happened was, I'm building out the financial coaching company at the time. He's in real estate. And while we're out of the military now, we're working for ourselves. What was happening was we were still pulling 18, 20-hour days. And it's like, we're in it. We're in it, right? Like, we're getting to it. One day sitting back, it's like, bro, if I wanted to do this, I could have just stayed in the military. Like the point of being out of the military is to like have more control of our time now, right? Because that's the most important asset that we have. So seeing that and seeing where we were headed, it was like, yeah, bro, like we're working hard, we're getting things done. People see us working all day, but like, what do we have to show for it besides working all day? Like this isn't the life that we imagined when we dropped papers and got out. Like it's supposed to be different. And then that kind of just started us on the journey of questioning, like, where do we want to be in life and what do we want life to look like? And then, things have been going since then.
That's funny you mentioned that, because I went through the same thing when I got out of the Navy. I was used to like getting at work at 05:30, and I was doing that, and I was like kind of like making my team do it, but it's not normal. That's not normal. Getting at work at 05:30 and working till 8 p.m. That is not normal. So I had to. It was a hard transition for me, because I had to get used to just being normal. To be honest with you, it's a thing. Like I'm grateful for the work ethic that I have, like learned through the military academy and stuff like that. But it can also be detrimental if you keep on that path for no reason.
Absolutely.
So that's huge. So getting back to the expansion restaurants and everything like that, which is super dope and hard to do. So how are you guys doing it? That's restaurants are one of the hardest businesses to be in, and you guys have successfully done it and then expanded on it, which is you have to be in like the top like 1% literally to do that. And I told you guys, before we came on the show, I compare you to the guy who started Mission Barbecue. Me and E were able to like kind of watch him elevate from one store to one restaurant to, he has a franchise now. You guys have the same command about you guys and the way you guys move and stuff like that. So how are you doing it? Wow.
Can I set the stage too? Nobody knows this about me, but my favorite show is Gordon Ramsay Kitchen Nightmares. I watch it like incessantly. Mine too. I'm super interested in how this stuff works, because if you can manage it and figure this stuff out, you are like cream of the crop. So that's why I was so excited about this episode, because I'm just like obsessed about the chaos of it, and the fact that you guys know how to control it is so cool.
It's really like an orchestra. That's the best way I could put it. So when you look at a restaurant up front, or you look at the operations up front, it's natural to get bogged down in all the pieces that need to get that
There's
need to be
so
moved,
much. There's literally,
right?
I'm like,
So the main focus for us was we have to wrangle the business in and focus on some key things, right? Focus on customer service, making sure that our food is really good, and making sure that the ambiance of the space is inviting and warm so that guests and our individuals that are coming to spend time with us at Flavor Hills have a one-of-one unique experience, right?
cool.
The best way now to set that up is in terms of it's almost like an orchestra where everyone is doing their own individual part at a very high level, and the more you grow in business, the more you can basically hire more skilled people for that mental leverage piece that I was talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you think about everything yourself, that's what makes it tough, right? When you got 100 tasks or 1,000 tasks that you got, but what makes it easier is when we hire super skilled, young, talented GM that's really killing it, ready to do his thing, and we just get out his way. We
So
allow him to have.
it's worth spending money for that talent because you're buying back like the 4 or 5 years where that guy was making mistakes at someone else's business, but now you're leapfrogging that, right?
Right.
Absolutely.
So I would say, for us, we got really talented people that we're fostering around being really good at the thing that they're good at. Right. So we find talented people, get them into the role. Like for me, I don't worry about kitchen operations at all. That's not what I do. Right. For me, I'm in finances. I run the finances. I'm organized with the finances, and I run business strategy and long-term thinking. Right. He's leadership. He kills it in organization, leadership, getting the team, curtailed around a mission. Tellers is operation. Tellers is an absolute beast at logistics, organizations. And then we also have Chef Morgan, who's an absolute beast with kitchen operations. And that's what she does and the menus. And we're all okay with getting out of each other's way. Like if something pops up with leadership, I'm not going to talk about that at all. That's E's thing. Right. If there's anything that pops up with money, they're not even gonna, hey, it's Andre. Right. And us creating those clear lines of separation, but then also trusting each other as high level players that person's gonna get it done. Right.
Yeah.
So that's where it comes back to that loyalty and trust piece in terms of performance. Right. And the people that we're hiring based on performance level, capability, and willingness to get better over time. And as we pour into them, they're starting to get the understanding of what's going on. They know how to make those decisions. Because what happens is when people start something, they normally start it based off a system, not understanding that the infrastructure is not already in place. That infrastructure needs to be built. Right. So like when you're coming from the Marine Corps, you're coming from an infrastructure that's been in place for hundreds of years.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So when you're building something from scratch, every single detail of it that you're building from scratch is from scratch, right? So you're really putting together an infrastructure, and then you're trying to find capable people to uphold that infrastructure versus trying to build a business around yourself. And that's been for us is just getting as many talented people in the same area as possible, figuring out what they're good at, where we're weak at. They should be good in something that we're weak at, pairing them up with our weakness and their strength, and getting out of their way and trusting them to do it.
Man, that could be a bumper sticker.
and he hit on it for sure. But like, one of the things that I think I want everyone on here to understand is that a lot of times, we get so caught up in like wanting to do things ourselves that like it can be overwhelming, right? But you see like there's 4 of us that's running the operation, and like there's not a single person that can compete with the 4 of us doing what we're doing, right? It's just impossible. Like numbers wise, the number of hours, right? You only have 24. We have 96 between us. We came to play, right? So it's a different scenario. So it's also just as important to find capable people to build around, because if you truly want to hit higher levels, you cannot do it alone. And I think that's something to think about. Another thing too that we really focus on is training. I think that's one of the beautiful things about the Marine Corps too. If there's one thing we can do, we can train, right? But like Truss said, we had to develop all the training from scratch. But that goes back to your question earlier about the military, right? I wrote SOPs, I wrote operations orders all the time. Nothing switches except for the fact that it's for us now, right? So now, if there's something going from communication, all these things, it gets done in the same manner, because clearly the military system worked. operations order is effective because everybody knows who, what, task, purpose, mission, right? Everybody understands. We take the same concept. If these things are weak and we know people are weak on these, hey, let's develop a training program and get that done and get this out to them so that now we can have a structure and we know we have a standard for where everyone should be trained to, and we can build from that, right? So it's getting a foundation, understanding where everyone is and meeting them where they are, not expecting them to just be where we are, right? And that's one of the things we really had to learn, because being so high up in the clouds and so learning so much, is easy to forget that like everyone else doesn't know these things. And if you don't take a step back and be like, all right, now that we know this, let's get a baseline of where the average person is so we can help develop them to this level, you're going to scare people away or run them away, and you can't continue to build off of that. So it's a lot of learning going into all of those things. But and I'd say another piece too is like relationship building. You know, it doesn't, with anything in business, it doesn't matter how good your product is if people don't know about it or if they don't know you. And I think that's one of the big things that we've had too, is like the partnerships and the relationships that we have taken the time to strategically curate. I think a lot of people miss out on that and don't take that time because they don't see it as value. But I spoke earlier about value, right? There's a lot of relationships that can pay more dividends than an invoice ever can, right? So understanding what you're going to get from them and understanding that it's not spending time or taking time. And when you take it, when you're doing it with the right person, it's an investment of time, right? It's not spending time, it's investing your time. And on the back end, it can pay dividends depending on who that person is, what they see your relationship as, and what resources they have. Because at the end of the day, everybody has resources. And if you're tied in, right? Like just like Geoffrey knows if he hits us, he has access to our resources. If we hit him, we have access to his resources, right? That's how you get ahead. So understanding these things and building relationships and partnerships with people strategically in order to make sure that you can grow in the proper way, I think also really helps with the success of Flavor Hills.
With 4 really like top level professionals, how do you keep information from getting siloed in each individual like portion of the business? Because that's a huge hurdle that people deal with when they start businesses with multiple people. And it sounds like you guys got it figured out. Any advice?
So we like to organize everything around a common mission that everybody then gets a piece of that common mission, right? So we start off by, okay, let's say revenue goals are this, right? Everybody who's supposed to know what the revenue goals are knows what the revenue goals are. And then each person's responsible for their individual task to make that thing happen, right? But like when you're starting off with the communication piece, it's understanding what to communicate, not how much to communicate, right? So when we're starting off, it's, all right, we need to tell each other everything because we need to keep everybody in a loop. But now we're in the day of technology where, one, we can be quick on communication, but that can also be a hindrance.
Definitely.
Right. So it's understanding what to communicate as much. So we like to tie all of the communications to key performance indicators. Right. So if there's going to be a problem that's dealing with a KPI, then whoever is in charge of that KPI is who needs to be speaking on that KPI. Right. And all of us trust that each of us understand those things. So Tellers, who's not here today, but our other partner is an absolute beast at backtracking and letting us know what to do. He's our logistics operator. That's what he does. That's by the grace of God. Thank you. Right? But like, that's the thing that he does. So for us, we always have clear guidelines on what we're going to be doing. So our communication's always in alignment with that clear guidance. So let's say, for instance, I have 60 tasks that need to be done. Tellers will coordinate all of those tasks, coordinate what everyone in the company needs to be done, needs to be doing. And when you accept the responsibility of those tasks, you also accept the responsibility of this being really serious. And this is not a game, and that everything that we're doing, comes with consequences. We have staff members, we have team members, we have people who will rely on us. Their kids go to school because of the decisions that we're
mortgages, school, savings accounts. But I guess because you mentioned something really interesting. On a given day, Chef Morgan could text both of you about 1,000 different things. Yeah. How do you communicate enough without communicating too much? Because these days it's super easy. You could communicate on 10 different platforms to each of you 15 times a minute. How do you set a limit between how much you need to be informed versus how,
it's really a standard on the conversation. So the higher level the operation gets, the less time we have for nonsense.
Hmm.
Right. So it's like the communication gets is basically concise because it gets directed. Right. So we have different group chats that we have. We have several different group chats. We just migrated to Slack as well. Right. But in those group chats, everybody's been trained to just say what you need and not waste time. Right. So
Got
bottom
it.
line up front,
Yep.
the bluff. So we're going to jump into the convo. Let's say, for instance, Morgan needs something from me. It's, hey, Andre, this is the thing that I need by this date. Or she's going to put it on my calendar, or she's going to put it on my task list. So each of us have task lists that everybody's able to kind of
Awesome. Yeah.
everybody's able to participate on. So instead of needing to call me, if she needs something next week, she'll just put it on my task list, say she left it, say she needed by this date, and she'll give me all of the information needed to not even have to speak to her. So now she doesn't have to break her flow to then call me to then try to get info when it's like she doesn't need it for 2 weeks. So it keeps us on track by keeping always what's important in front of us right now versus worrying about stuff that should be 6 months down the line, right? Which is what leads to the over communication. Like somebody will get an idea and say, hey, we need to be doing this, but that's a project that's 6 months from now. So it needs to be tailored into project 6 months from now, not a conversation right now. But we'll call that out loud. Right. So the training is continuous for us, where it's a nip in the butt immediately. Like, hey, right now we're on operational phase 2. Why are you mentioning phase 5? Don't mention phase 5 again until phase 5 comes around. Right. And those immediate continuous corrections has basically corrected our team into knowing when to say things, when not to say things, what's important, what's a priority and what's not.
I'd say to add to that too is, once again, we assume that people know how to effectively communicate, right? But they don't. So we identify that, and that can be a critical hinge point when you're trying to expand. So now, instead of assuming that everyone would just catch on, we develop trainings to teach people, all of our staff, team members, how to communicate effectively to make sure that we get done. Now we know that everybody has the same standard, right? It's not like hey, why is this person doing it? Nah, everybody bring it in. This is what we put together, bow, and then the leadership now, hey, this is what you're expected to do, ask questions, and like now we roll, but now there's a set standard for how it should be, and there's not just people operating around assumptions and doing different things.
So for those of you who don't know, food service typically isn't an officer position in the Marines. So is leadership fundamental enough that your training in the Marines was applicable immediately in the food service space? Is the core fundamentals of leadership that easy to transfer, or is that a personality thing? Did you develop it? Is it so innate in you that you're able to transfer it from industry to industry, or is that just how it goes?
If I understand what you're asking, I think the leadership skills are transferable across any industry. When we talk about this too, I think one of the things that we miss out on, especially so I think the military is great at making leaders, right? But what I think happens is you're capped, because I think to be a truly effective leader, you have to have the leadership capability and the creativity, both together. But I think the military stifles creativity, which especially in the military, you can't have a bunch of people out here being all creative when lives are on the line, right? So, but because of that, there's only so far you can go with your leadership. But coming on the outside now, where the gloves are off, it's a very different scenario, right? And I think when people get out, one of the things that I've seen a lot of people struggle with, and I struggle with myself personally, is being able to tie the skills and things that I experienced in the military to the outside world, right? For all the way back to the academy. Like, hey, yeah, we got up, it was long days, we had to do stuff we didn't want to do all the time and all this, but like, all right, now what does that do? That means you have discipline. That means that when you're in the entrepreneurial world and you got to do something you don't feel like doing, but it's got to get done, you have 100 examples of times you did it, right? One of the things that I appreciate about the military too is like, and especially in the Marine Corps, is almost every day there's something testing your intestinal fortitude, whether it's a 12-mile ruck, or you doing some type of PT, or you got to line up with somebody in the pit and do some mixed martial arts. Whatever it is, you're constantly challenging yourself. But now on the outside, looking back, things may seem like they're scary, but at the same time, you have the confidence to know that you have all of those experience of you going through tougher things to get you through it, right? So all of these skills do transfer, but the difficulty lies in understanding how to translate those skills from the things you just experienced in the military to what that truly did for you as a person on the outside, and how those skills and attributes align you against the average person and how you can use that to be successful.
Damn.
How'd you guys pick your business partners? Because I feel we talked about this at the Blue and Gold Summit. I feel like just naturally you gravitate towards like other academy grads. I don't own one business, right, where an academy grad isn't involved. Like Q's my business partner, Eric Compton, JD is one of my business partners. So does that go into play, and how does it go into play, and why do you pick business partners that are either associate with the Naval Academy or the Marine Corps, or service just in general? I know for me, I know when times get bad, they will be able to like work through it, to be honest with you. Anybody can run a business when everything is going fine, but it's when stuff hits the fan, like, is that person gonna be in my corner, or is he or she gonna fold over and not be able to either shift when the market shifts or things like that? So can you both talk about that?
I say the reason we naturally, Tellers was, I've had several business partners in the past. I've been creating business since I was like 13. This has like been the thing that I've been wanting to do my entire life. I plan to be a career businessman, and I plan to be one of the best. Like, that's my goal at it, right? So I've been in partnerships from a young age all over the place, and they never worked out because no one was ever as dedicated as me. Right. But I also understood that I was also choosing business partners incorrectly based on someone I'd want to hang out with versus someone who was skilled and capable to do the mission that we're embarking on. So for me, starting off with Tellers is my first official real deal business partner. I plan to go to death together. Right. Because I'm a dreamer. All day long, I could be in the clouds. I have strategies all day long. I think all day long. Like, that's the thing I'm good at, and the numbers, right? But if you ask me to sit down and do something, it's not gonna get done. It's not gonna get done. Not because I can't get it done. It's because it pains me that much to not be thinking about the strategy and not be looking at the numbers. Like, it's
I know exactly what you mean.
Right?
I totally know that feeling.
The other end now, Tellers designed to get things done, right? It's just how he's wired. He loves it. He's organized around it. It gives him all the energy that numbers and business strategy gives him. And when we linked up together, that's when it started to flourish, because I picked a partner based on a deficiency. I didn't pick him based on whether or not we were hanging out, right? But we were both in the military together. This is a person who's reliable, dependable, who's serious about the role that they're going to play. And exactly like what you were saying, if things hit the fan, I understand he's going to fight back. Right. So naturally, as we continue and we're building up more, Eric has already been my brother. This is my fraternity brother, one of my best friends, already in alignment, already somebody who's dependable, already a top-notch officer, was one of the top-ranked officers for the entire time he was in, right? It's not just my friend I'm looking at a really elite individual who's prepared to lead and organize around any mission, right? So as you're picking your partners and as you're building your relationships, an example, Chef Morgan, once again, when we were looking to partner up, because we needed someone who was a skilled chef to partner on the back of house, right? She's organized, super serious, focused. Her menus, she was the epitome of ready for her shot when we met her, right? We meeting other chefs. We're like, hey, do you have any menus? They're like, we don't really know. And just God's graces, Morgan falls into our lap. She has books on top of books, organized files, like everything, recipes that she's been cooking up for you, like the epitome of being prepared for the role that we're asking her to undertake. So for us, it's about meeting, not necessarily just the military. I think we have common ground because of that. I know if you went to the Naval Academy, I know what type of timing you on. But also if you're in the military, I know what type of timing you are, because we have that common ground. But from just a business standpoint, you want to pick people who fill operational deficiencies, who are also good people willing to take a lifelong journey, because it's a lifelong journey. And if anybody's coming into play for a year or two, you're not serious about what you're building.
Yeah.
Right. So for us, it's about finding long-term people, right, and continuing to build around long-term relationships.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
That's hard to follow up right there.
Sometimes it's just well said,
I don't know if I need to say too much more, but I agree with everything you said, for sure. I when picking partners, I think another piece that gets missed out is the quality of conversations that's had. Right, you learn a lot about people and about yourself through conversation.
That's true.
And when you're able to sit down and talk about the things you want, be honest about the things that slow you down, the negative parts of you, the positive parts of you, and like where you're trying to go. That's another thing. Like, we can communicate and things work because we talk about where we want to go, how we want to align, and we're all aligned in one vision, right? It's not like I want to go over here and he wants to go there, and Chef Morgan's trying to go here and Taylor's trying to stay here, right? That's chaos. Like, hey, this is what makes sense. Is everybody cool? All right, now we understand we all want the same thing. Let's push. Right? But the only way that happens is through real genuine conversation that goes deeper than just what did you do today, or like, hey, did the deal go by, right? You gotta know the people in like better than just like knowing their name and knowing that you do real estate and that I've seen you a couple times, right? It has to get much deeper than that.
Facts. What's 3 pieces of advice you would leave to like either a young midshipman or a junior officer? Just 3 pieces of solid advice for both of y'all.
You want to go back and forth, or do 3 individual? The first one, you said 3 pieces of advice.
Yep.
The first one I would say is take some time to figure out the type of life you want to live. Right, that was something for me. I spent a lot of time like, I gotta have $1 million, $2 million, $3 million. And I remember one time my mentor, I was sitting down, I think I was like 25 or 26 or something like that, and I'm like, hey, I'm almost at $1 million. I got like 700,000. I'm almost there. And he told me, shut up. He was like, what are you talking about? Like you're so far ahead. Why are you feeling any type of stress? Why are you feeling? So for me, it's because I was feeling that way because I didn't know the type of life I wanted to live. Right. So going back to what I was mentioning earlier about when I did figure out the type of life that I wanted to live was, okay, I want to be able to have freedom of movement. I want to be able to pull up on my friends and support them in the things that they're doing. I want to have funds to do the things that I want to do at that time. Not what's being forced on me, but the things I internally actually want to do. And I want to be able to do those things without feeling forced to.
Yeah.
That's a whole different thing to look at than being like, I need $1 million. It's 2 completely different things, right? So once I figured that out, it became so much easier to maneuver my life, because I'm like, a life like that only cost me $5,000.
Yeah.
Even if I make $60,000 a month, $5,000 is good to go. I'm always safe, because the life that frees me and gives me all the things that I want, and my number is 3581, by the way, right? But like, that's the number that frees me. Anything above that is just me getting better at the thing that I've chosen to do.
Yeah.
I say my first one would be, at the end of the day, you got to remember that the only person that will ever come to save you looks you in the mirror every morning when you brush your teeth. Right. And when you look at life in that angle, and you're able to take accountability for everything you do or fail to do, that gives you, it's freeing, because now it lets you know that you're the one that's in control. Right. And so I think first is fight to gain back control of your life, take accountability. And like, if you want something to get done, then stand up and get it done. Right. You don't expect anyone to come save you or feel sorry for you, because a lot of times we view the world from only our perspective, forgetting that, there's 8.4 billion other perspectives out here and nobody cares about ours. Right. And when we can flip the map around, as we say in the Marine Corps, and realize that everybody else has an opinion or thoughts or feels some types of way, we can learn how to navigate the world a little bit better.
All right, so I'll jump in now. Now you heated it up.
You got one more left. Y'all talk a little long.
I got you.
Y'all dropping knowledge.
I got you.
Y'all running to get one more. You better get a good one.
All right, so hold on. I know it's gonna be the last one. I got to tee up now. So I've mentioned before that fear isn't real. Right. I look back on all the opportunities I've ever had in my life that I dropped the ball on, and it was a false assumption that I made about this thing, like fear being real. So I'm like, you know what? It's not for me. And I counted myself out.
Mhm.
So the more and more I'm playing the game, I'm realizing that there's no limitations. Fear isn't real at all. And you're only limited by the things that you're willing to do.
Mhm.
Right. So if I had to look back and give myself, you know, something when I was younger, I'd say eliminate fear and not only think big, but don't limit how big you think.
Mhm.
Right. Because if you're saying like, I want to make $100 million,
Mhm.
right? That's still a limit that you're putting on yourself because you've placed a number, right? Like
Mhm.
numbers are infinite.
Yeah.
Of all the numbers you can ask for any number.
Mhm.
You see what I'm saying? But it's getting to that piece where you realize that it isn't fear that's stopping you. It's you assuming that you're not capable of doing that thing.
Yeah.
Right. But when you take it off and you actually step out there and you're like, you know what? Let me take the first step.
Mhm.
All right, dang, I failed, but it actually really wasn't that bad. Like, this is what I was worried about. You gain confidence every time you fight fear.
Yeah.
Right. So your day-to-day basis should be based around tackling the fear that you're going through so that you can achieve the life that you want, because it's on the other side of that fear. It's on the other side of that doubt. But you will never be able to attain that unless, like you were like what E was saying, unless you look in the mirror and say, you know what, there's no one stopping me.
Yeah.
Right. Those are all excuses that I'm making.
Facts.
That's
Facts.
3.
You got
Another one?
two, yeah.
Two and two.
You gonna let us roll?
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah,
so
okay.
the next one I'll say is really focus on who you spend time with and who's around you.
Mhm.
Because that's really going to dictate what you do and where you go in life. You know, it sounds so cliche. People talk about it all the time. You know, show me the 5 people you spend time with, and it's like, yeah, it sounds cliche, but it's true because you know, knowing that he's around me any day that he wake up, I know as soon as I woke up, he's already up and getting to it. So,
Yeah.
we'll wrap it up. We're running out of time, but but yeah, so that's probably another big one is for me.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I appreciate you guys stopping by. It's always a pleasure when especially Truss and Eric comes on the show. Tell the goats where they can find you at.
I mean, you can find me on Instagram at in the smoker, INTHESMOKER.
And then for me, on Instagram as well at Andre M Truss. That's ANDREMTRUSS. Super responsive on there, and I'm open to helping as always. If you hear this and you need some advice, I can't promise that I'll get back to you that day, but I promise I do always get back at some point.
Absolutely.
Take them up on it. Reach out. They are
Reach
truly high level people. I know a lot of people on social media world, they talk about business like theoretically they don't run it, but you guys are actually running businesses and doing it at a high level. And sometimes you don't have the time to produce content, which is, you find that a lot, right?
Yeah.
People who are like actually running businesses don't have the time. So I just wanted to thank you guys for coming by, being on the podcast. Didn't have to do that. You know, you're out running expansion restaurants and stuff like that. So that's awesome. This is Geoffrey Whiteside and JD Kameen signing off.